Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to this special transmission of 23rd March. Today we are going to celebrate the Pakistan Day. Pakistanis all over the world are celebrating the Pakistan Day today. On 23rd of March 1940 at Minto Park, Muslim League, Muslims of the subcontinent and all those people who stood for against all those ideas that were dividing people on the ethnic lines and the religious lines. They gathered at the Minto Park in Lahore in 1940, and they decided that they would go and they would strive for a separate homeland for the Muslims and for all those people, as I said earlier, who stood against the division on the ethnic lines and the religious lines. Today we are commemorating the Lahore Resolution, and we are going to have a discussion on the idea of Pakistan today. Where do we stand 72 years on from 1947 to now? And what is the idea of Pakistan? What is the future of Pakistan? Today, this special transmission, we are going to call it Young Pakistan. We are going to have an interactive session with young people in Pakistan, their idea about Pakistan, and where do they see Pakistan and their future, and what are they doing to make Pakistan a better country. We're going to have a special discussion today with our special guest in the studios. Our first guest is Brigadier Retired Simon Sharf. He's an expert on Pakistan's national security. So welcome to the show. Our second guest is Professor Dr. Amna Mahmood. She is a renowned analyst of international relations. Welcome to the show, Professor Amna. Our third guest is Mr. Haris Khaliq, renowned columnist and a poet and an intellectual. Also a member of Human Rights Commission of Pakistan. So welcome to the show. Our third guest is Mr. Faisal Mushtaq, renowned senior educationist, academician, and also a former caretaker provincial minister for education. Welcome to the show, Mr. Mushtaq. So we are going to start with our session today, and I'll just put questions to our panelists. My first question to Brigadier Simon Sharf. So 72 years on, today we are commemorating the Lahore Resolution, and starting from 1940 till today, where do you see Pakistan today?
The answer to your question lies, all of us are one way or the other connected to 23rd March, 24th March 1940, but I have a very special connection, and that is that my father was there. And he scribbled on his diary. His diary says these are the words of Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. I'm not very sure, but he wrote, "Today Pakistan is a nation, soon we will become a country." So the cognitive construct, the mentality, the thought of creating Pakistan came into being on 23rd, 24th March 1940, and the country came into being 7 years hence. But as we've traveled in these 72 years, somehow there have been too many seams that have not been sewed together. So we can say that now we have a geography, but as a nation, there's a lot left to be desired to become a very, very cohesive nation. Thank you.
Professor, I'm not talking about this nation building. It certainly is very important. How do you think that we can work on this nation building concept?
I think every nation is having some roots, and ideology of Pakistan serve as the roots of a nation. And rest the task is with the coming generation, and the generation has passed. So I think that we have played our role, and nation building is not a task that has to be done at once. It is a continuous process, and every nation is doing its task. Pakistan was a bit slow. We can analyze that now we are having less rule of law and more problems, but it doesn't mean that we are not working. We are working well. Because for a nation building process, 70 years is nothing, 80 years is nothing. Nations are developed, if you see like the United States, they are 250 years old nation, and still they are having quite cumbersome task ahead, and you have seen the current politics of US. So keeping that in mind, we can say that nation building process is going on in Pakistan with all the depth of ideas and practical implications of it. And Pakistani nation is going ahead, and now in the Committee of Nations, we are a proud nation as we see the recent developments that Pakistan has acknowledged not only its diplomacy, its politics, its moral standards, and we are leading a nation. And we can refer to the Christchurch incidents where 50 people died and all of them were Muslims, but the hero was Pakistani. So you can see his family's stand and his own work and acknowledgement by the world that how Pakistanis are taking not only the Pakistani but also the Islamic standards all over the world.
Right. Mr. Khalik, in 1940, Muslim League, the people, as I said earlier, who stood against those that segregation and also against discrimination. Now today we see that there is this wave of extremism as well. Pakistan has been fighting extremism and terrorism. How do you see Pakistan today? And challenges have been there. The growth has been slow, but the growth has been there consistently. Where do you see Pakistan?
Thank you, Shamil. I think allow me to digress a little bit from what Dr. Sahiba was saying, and allow me to go back to the reason why Pakistan's demand was put forward. In the 1940 resolution, it's a simple, short resolution which was presented on the 23rd of March and passed on the 24th of March 1940 in Lahore. The basis for demanding Pakistan, the bases rather, were two. One was minority rights, and because Muslims were in a minority in a united India, which was caste-ridden, class-ridden, and colonial. And the second was provincial autonomy. It is written, I mean, these are 4 federating units now, as we speak, with some federally administered areas still, which eventually should become federating units, but that's a separate debate. So basically what Pakistan has been dealing with, it's been a checkered history. I agree with Brigadier Saab. But at the same time, since I'm critical but an incorrigible optimist also, I think nations are not built. Economies are built, nations evolve around that. So what we need to focus on is building the economy and a shared stake for all federating units in Pakistan, which means that all four and other areas, of course, including Gilgit-Baltistan, should actually be considered equal stakeholders, and the state has to work towards that, creating equal stakes. So what Pakistan can and should remember is that the raison d'être, as it were, for creating this country was to have minority rights secured, which were not possible in united India, according to the founding fathers of this country. And you see what is happening in India now to, if not entirely, partially prove that our founding fathers was not as out of step with the rest of the world as sometimes propagandists from the other side tell us. And the other thing is provincial autonomy, which means that all our federating units should have equal share and equal stakes in the state of Pakistan. So that is the only way. Running Pakistan as a democracy so that every voice is heard and every voice is, whether they dissent with you, they disagree with you, but they are given respect. And so run it as a democracy, run it as a federation. It should be a federal, democratic Pakistan with equal citizenship for all its citizens. Right. So that is the way of going forward. In terms of extremism, I think everything can be resolved if people get a voice within a certain constitutional framework, and there is rule of law in Pakistan. Right. So I think, and there is a larger consensus built across society where different shades of opinion are respected rather than excluding people from our folds. We should be including people in our folds. It should be an inclusive, plural society.
Right. Yeah. Rightly said. And Mr. Mushtaq, you as an educationist, all these things that Mr. Khalik just mentioned, pluralism, equality, democracy, and this inclusiveness are the basis of every society, I would say. How important is the role of education in imparting this idea and this knowledge to the young generation?
extremely important. First of all, I would like to thank you and all the fellow panelists and the youth of Pakistan for being here. You see, for me, the young people, the youth of Pakistan, they are the single common denominator to shadow the principles of the Pakistan Day resolution. Today, young people of Pakistan under 25 or under 30, they represent 63% of Pakistan. 8th largest youth cohort in the world today we are. So these young people, they need to promote the founding principles of pluralism, inclusion, progression, equality, and what we say, the welfare state. And they cannot, at the moment, a lot of young people, those who do not have the franchise of education, there are more than 22 million children out of school. Those children are not citizens, they are subjects in the state. So to promote citizenship, you need to include more young people and citizens in the process of teaching, learning and literacy. But at the same time, I see the youth of Pakistan as the custodians of that process of evolution that Khaliq Saab has talked about, and also they are the custodians of the narrative of is Pakistan. At the time of Pakistan resolution, and like Brigadier Saab mentioned, that we were a nation, but we were becoming a country. And now that we are a country, the question is, are we a nation? So to me, today's event, and of course in context of young people, it's significant because with optimism, with equal opportunity, access and inclusion, I think the young people, they dominate and represent those voices which will shadow the true spirit of Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah and the principles of Pakistan Day.
Right. Brigadier Ashraf, talking about this evolution of a society, of a nation, when we talk about equality, I think that is the most important thing and that Pakistan needs to work on at the moment. Many people living on the peripheries of Pakistan, do you think that they can relate with what is happening at the center, political center in big cities like Islamabad, Lahore, Karachi or elsewhere? What can we do to provide equal opportunities to all the Pakistanis living in Pakistan?
You'll be surprised. I am a traveler also. I love to go into places where people never go, far off places. I drive to them. I live off the grid. You'll be surprised. MashaAllah, every Pakistani is very aware. Whether it's a small kiosk in the mountains, a cattle herder, or someone in the desert of Nara or a far-flung area of Balochistan. One of the most explored areas, by the way, is Balochistan as far as I am concerned. I have been to every nook and corner. Everyone is aware what Pakistan is about. So mentally, the people of Pakistan are not divorced. This is first point. The second is democracy. We used to read in political science when we were in college and university, for the people, by the people, of the people. But I think democracy and governance is much beyond that. As Haris said, it has to be inclusive. It has to be participatory. It has to care for its citizens. It's a social contract between the people. And therefore, there has to be a socio-economic complementary alliance at every level. Small things getting together, gelling societies together. And I agree, it is the economics around which a nation is built. Right. It's also those slogans, but those slogans can go the wrong way, like it happened with the Nazi Germany, or it's happening with the Rashtriya Sevak Sangh and BJP right now. They go, you see, too much of slogan-based nationalism takes you to another extreme, which is counterproductive. So this has to be built. The problem is, economically, the 70 to 80% contributions to the GDP of Pakistan and also to the remittances of foreign exchange to Pakistan in terms of reserves is made by people for whom the country and the state has not built a complementary alliance. They are living at their own. They are living through a parallel economy. They are living through a barter rural economy, And the people who go abroad, Middle East and all over the world, you find Pakistani cooks and waiters. In any country you go, you'll find cab drivers, cooks, waiters in the restaurant. They are sending money back. They are contributors to more than 70% of your national earnings. And look what our governments have successively been spending on them, not more than 2.5%.
Right.
Not more, this includes the education plus the health sector. So, if this is the type of contract that the state has with its people, then that gelling and those bridges can never be created.
Rightly said, yeah. Professor Amna, imagining Pakistan and packaging and projecting Pakistan's true image, that is very important for the Pakistanis themselves and also internationally. What is the best way of knowing ourselves and projecting Pakistan in the right way?
I think that it's not a very hard question now, having so much youth here, and they are representing, as just before program, Mushtaq Sahab just identified that how many people are from Balochistan, from KP, and from Gilgit-Baltistan and Punjab, and so. It is hard to project yourself when you are having dictatorship at your country, but now Pakistan is not out of that. And having democracy means the participation and inclusiveness of everyone. And right now, I don't think that we are living in that much gloomy position as we used to be, as Brigadier Saab is pointing out. There are things to be settled, and then they need our attention, obviously. But the representation of Pakistan at every stage needs a soft image of Pakistan. When I was there in United States and I used to go for lecture on Pakistan-US relations and Afghanistan and situation in Pakistan, everyone used to come and they just asked that, have you been PhD from Pakistan? Are you studying there right now, and a number of other things. And when I used to tell them that I am from Pakistan and all my colleagues accompanied with them, and when I used to tell them that my mother is graduate in economics and political science and sociology, they used to astonish that where that Pakistan is. So when we represent Pakistan at international level, more women and more educated people can represent Pakistan thoroughly. And I have seen at a number of areas that Pakistanis, they are, it's neo-imperialism and neo-imperial depiction of the culture. Then those people writing against Pakistan, those people writing against the culture of Pakistan, history of Pakistan, they are awarded with prizes and they are declared bestsellers. So we should come out of that and we should represent the idea and the problems and the situation of Pakistan in a way that we should come to some of the solutions, not identifying that we are a failed nation and we are having so much deprivation. Obviously, we are not having a gloomy picture. We are having all resources available, and it is the capacity of Pakistani people how to utilize them. And since we are having a very dynamic and vibrant youth, and they are ready to take the task from the previous generation left. And I think that that would be the best image of Pakistan as the youth would carry in future, and those who can communicate in their terms, in their language, and the same done by Quaid-e-Azam himself. He used all the political connotation of the West to demand for Pakistan that we are a nation state and we need a separate nation under the Treaty of Westphalia as they demanded.
Right.
So I think that we should carry the same, that keeping intact our own identity, we should talk to them in the same notions and connotations as West can understand, and we can portray a very positive image of Pakistan. And right now you see the UN Security Council resolution that mentions that did not mention Pakistan. It means that Pakistan is communicating in the terms the world understand, and Pakistani diplomacy is going very good. And in that regard, Pakistani students, Pakistani teachers, Pakistani traders traveling all over, traveling abroad, they can carry that position that we are not terrorists, and people when say that
Of course not. Every Pakistani is an
every
ambassador.
Pakistani is an ambassador, and you see that
For
when we
Pakistan,
go
right.
abroad, people say that you are the Pakistanis, you are the best people who travel to Pakistan. Then we host them. They say that Pakistan is the best, good place to live, best
Of
place
course,
to live,
yes, yeah.
and we should come over. We should overcome the portrayal previously presented for
The way
Pakistan.
Pakistan is being portrayed, right. Mr. Khalik, there is this fine difference between nationalism and evolving as a nation. So, can you elaborate that? Nationalism, this is on the rise, by the way, nowadays. Nationalism we see everywhere. So, how do you elaborate nationalism and evolving as a nation?
I think, thank you, Shyam. I think Brigadier Saab has already replied to that question in different words. You see, when I say that there can't be a structural, artificial nation-building project, is actually, it does not mean that, and I qualified that, it does not mean that a nation will never evolve. But the problem is that the stakes in Pakistan, unlike what people in Lahore and Islamabad, where we live and where we are based, think, people in Pakistan, we have to understand and appreciate that they need to think the same way if you want to create a nation which is functional. And for that, stakes have to be equal. And for making stakes equal, there has to be a difference in the approach in how we run our economy and how we run our politics. So I think that is so eventually that will evolve. Inshallah, it will evolve, because that is the only way that the country will prosper. In terms of your asking that there is this populist nationalism, and I think populist nationalism is good. I mean, there's something in me instinctively that all my criticism falls apart when I see Pakistan playing a cricket match or a hockey match. I just can't think rationally then. You see, but and that reminds me that, nationalism or narrow nationalism is something not to be celebrated. Being proud of your nationhood and being positive about your national traits and your national aspirations and your national achievements is different from being a narrow nationalist. So we can be a humanist and at the same time taking pride in our roots and our civilization and our culture and our values. So I think that is something that needs to be promoted, and that can be promoted through a cultural exchange and also among our people. I mean, it is very unfortunate that people living in Sindh, for instance, know very little about what the culture, tradition, and the folk tales or the folk music or poetry in Pakhtunkhwa is like, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is like. So you see, there's a lot that needs to be done in-house. And that has to go, and I agree with Dr. Sahiba, that it has to go in tandem with the building of the international image. But you cannot, you can't do the two exclusively. You cannot build an image unless you fix things in-house. Right. Iqbal ka ek sher hai, and then I'll translate, and of course it'll be a crude translation, and that is important for thought leaders, that hai wahi tere zamane ka imam-e barhaq jo tujhe haziro mawjood se bezar kare. So the thing is that a thought leader actually makes you dissatisfied with your surroundings and with your present. It does not mean that dissatisfaction is not the same as dismissal. So we are not suggesting that aap mayus ho jaye.
Aspiring for more.
But being dissatisfied is that you aspire for more. So if you become complacent and you settle for all the good things that you think you have, but do not look at the weaknesses and the places where a lot of improvement is needed, we cannot go forward.
Right. Right, and we'll go to the audience, our young people, after this question, Mr. Mushtaq, that teaching our young generation about what Mr. Khalik just said, how difficult is that? Can we make sense of what is happening in Pakistan at the moment? There are challenges, certainly, opportunities are there as well. 10, 20 years back, situation was different in Pakistan, but we have improved, of course. So interacting with the young people, teaching them what actually Pakistan is about, how do you see it?
Thank you. Teaching young people today is the happiest experience any Pakistani can have. It's much better than being in the cabinet or in the government or running a province. These young people, they respond to you. And all what they expect is respect, love, inclusion, ideas, opportunity, mentoring, and they need a whole journey. They need the institution or the classroom to map that journey. Now, what are the 5 parameters of education today? Like I always say, तालीम के 5 अरकान होते हैं. One is curriculum, the other is classroom, the third is the teacher, the fourth is the learner, and the fifth one is the education system itself. And then you see, the thing is that the best dividend of democracy is development. And you know, being their teacher, and I've gone through the same process what these young people are going through. I'm not that I come from a different generation. I'm one of them. What I see is that there is a large populist narrative that Pakistan has a dynamic youth, Pakistan has a progressive youth, Pakistan's young people are going to do this, Pakistan's young people are the future of Pakistan. The engagement and the interaction which I have with my teachers and with my students across the country. I have schools now from Hyderabad all the way to the north of Pakistan. They say, bas bhai bas, zyada baat nahi, Chief Saab. Give us jobs, give us employment, give us mentoring, give us platforms and ideas for entrepreneurship. So individually, I'm popping up a school, I'm creating a job, making a social contribution. But together with my government, with my policy makers, with my legislators, we need to make sure that we just don't give them a populist political narrative that you are the young people and the future belongs to you. They want to talk about today and they want to talk about their future, and which is about employment, which is about education, which is about entrepreneurship, which is about empowerment, and which is about emancipation.
Right, and now we'll take question and answers from the audience.
I'd like to ask the whole panel this question. Military rule or democracy? Our country's gone through both through the course of our history as it's been. How much damage and how much advantage has either one had? Because there's always, as Pakistanis, we always have an opinion on it.
Military rule is not good. It's something which is undesirable. But perhaps there were times, and especially gentlemen like Haris would vouch, Pakistan had a very bad time from 1949 till 1956. There was one tussle which was going on between the Bengali politicians and the West Pakistani politicians. There was a bureaucracy which was represented by Skandar Mirza, which represented the bureaucratic interests, the interest of the 1935 Legislative Act, which basically said that the natives are not capable and therefore someone has to be on top of them to put them on the right path and make them do things. And there were so many prime ministers who were changed. Even the constitution of 1956 was a unicameral constitution. It had one chamber. It did not represent the interest of the federation at all. And look what that martial law did. It brought economic reforms. It brought economic prosperity to the country. The name of Pakistan and the products of Pakistan were known world over. Pakistan's exports were more than the imports. We used to have a surplus budget. Dollar to rupee was 4 rupees 3 annas in those days. And there was the decade of progress. But unfortunately, because the military governments work on a very narrow base, they are not interactive, they are not representative, they ignore participation by the people, and yet experience proves they've been more participatory, because whenever the military governments have come, the local bodies or the local self-government has also been introduced. They lacked all that, and because of it, elites popped up.
Mr. Khalik, would you agree with this argument that there is some perhaps structural flaw in the Pakistani political system, because there are arguments and counter arguments? How do you see it?
You see, I agree with Brigadier Saab that this single enemy identification of the military vis-a-vis citizens is perhaps historically incorrect. However, we must also remember that there are three colonial institutions that we inherited: judiciary, military and bureaucracy. Bureaucracy being the strongest, as Brigadier Saab pointed out, in the early years of Pakistan. And those three colonial institutions have stayed, in contradiction with, or are being challenged by, or there hasn't really been a negotiated settlement between the institutions that were developed by the people of Pakistan, which were the political parties, civil society organizations and media. And you see that tension, all along our history. Now, some of these tensions are actually good for societies and good for nations, because conflict and contradiction produces new ideas and new thoughts. However, going by the constitution and going by the idea of Pakistan as was presented by the founder of the nation, there should be no debate about a democratic federal structure, because that is what Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah envisioned. So I think his speeches to the politicians, which absolutely correct. I mean, there's been an elite capture of politics in Pakistan. But Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah also asked the bureaucracy and the military to work within the constitutional framework that in his times was the 1935 Government of India Act, which provided a lot of agency to our bureaucracy. But now, since we are living under an agreed constitution, which is the 1973 constitution, and Parliament is the supreme body which can and should amend or introduce legislation accordingly. So I think there should actually be no debate about that. And there has been some international reasons also for military takeovers in Pakistan, which we do not have time to discuss in detail. Right. But there were some international powers which wanted right-wing dictatorships in third world developing countries, and you can see a wave of right-wing dictatorships during the times of General Ziaul Haq, for instance, across the Muslim world as well as the non-Muslim world, which was supported by the Western powers.
Under the leadership of Imran Khan, what does the future of Pakistan looks like, sir, in your opinion?
Structures and systems, if they are strengthened, if institutions are built, and we can continue with parliamentary democracy, whoever is in the leadership position, whoever is elected to become the Prime Minister of Pakistan, we should not worry about that.
The recent crisis we had with India, it was not only with the India, it was also with an entire axis which was anti-Pakistan. The Pulwama incident, the nuclear alerts, escalation and de-escalation. I think it was a very good time for Pakistan, because we not only proved our national resolve, we also proved our national leadership. That includes the Prime Minister of Pakistan, the leader of the opposition who made a terrific speech in the parliament as far as the escalation by India was concerned, and the armed forces, obviously they had to face the brunt, everybody, the entire nation. And I think at that moment, we had a person who was a mystery to the major powers of the world, because he's not visited them, he's not been to Russia, he's not been to America or UK or France or all these countries. They were always thinking about him, what he'll do. And there he showed himself as a statesman. Spoke very little, spoke logically, emphatically, correctly, sent the right messages across. So that is the first impact Imran Khan has made, a tangible impact on the formation of the construct of Pakistan. Everything else will follow.
Can you kindly comment on the peace and security situation in the region moving forward?
I think that the regional situation is getting better. We were living in a world where Cold War designs were here, and under those Cold War designs, we were under a compulsion to fight war on terror from the Allied powers. So this is the scenario better improved now that we are having a regional solution to the problems. We have found that all the forces of this region like Russia, China, Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, and even Middle Eastern forces like MBS was here to talk on that we try to find a regional solution because our stakes are involved.
Young generation, they have seen what has been happening 7-8 years back in Pakistan. We have been fighting extremism and terrorism. We fought it successfully, but there have been challenges internally and externally, from within and from the outside as well. So confronting those challenges and working on peace and security, I think for the young people, it's very, very important. How do you see it?
Thank you. And I think it is a very important question because in my last response also, I was humbly hinting at some international gameplay, which we have witnessed since the inception of Pakistan. That continues. But there are certain mistakes that we have committed. And I think the difference as we speak now is that the mistakes that we had committed, we realized those mistakes. But when we see that happening in India, I think there's no realization of the way they have dealt with the, Kashmir or the way they have dealt with Pakistan. So there's more realization here, there's more criticism here. I mean, even after, some issues with freedom of expression that we continue to raise voice against and challenge. But having said that, there's been a lot of debate within Pakistan about correcting the course that we had. Because in terms of, you see, there are a couple of things that we need to psychologically come out of. One is that there is, of course, there is a cherished historic civilizational link with India. But the state of Pakistan must not continue to exist and define itself vis-a-vis India all the time. So Dr. Sahiba is absolutely correct that we need to actually look beyond, the bilateral or the binaries, but, a multilateral, multipolar world suits us better. But for that, we also have to make an effort. Because in terms of radicalizing our youth, there were certain policies pursued in the past which actually radicalized a large portion of part of our youth in the name of religion. Why? In order to contain India and contain Afghanistan. I think we realize that a major shift is required in that policy. And also in there has to be some introspection that why all of our neighbors have issues with us. And I think that introspection is going on in Pakistan at the moment. But we still need to set the house in order. And the sooner we set the house in order, the better bargaining power we will have in the Committee of Nations.
Right. Rousseau said that man is born free and is everywhere in chains. So is Pakistan. We have independence, but we are everywhere in chains. Hans Morgenthau, someone who wrote a book like Politics Amongst Nations, says about national power. National power rises from a relatively stable platform of geography through various gradations to the fleeting opportunities of national character and morale. The new generation, you people, innovators, don't be scared of trying new ideas, critical thinking, coming up with inventions, becoming entrepreneurs, trying to practicalize ideas. That is where the future of Pakistan is.
Today, at the moment, the Pakistanis are facing 25 million children out of school. So being a Pakistani, how can we overcome this number? So in addition to that, question to retired Brigadier Saab, you said that due to Pakistanis are working abroad and sending money back to Pakistan and economic is being progressed. So don't you think there is lack of job opportunities in Pakistan and that is the reason that makes Pakistanis to go abroad and have a job there?
Between 22 to 25 million, मतलब 2 करोड़ 2 करोड़ 20 लाख से 2 करोड़ 50 लाख बच्चा which is the second largest out-of-school children in the world after Nigeria, and there's possibly one more country. Now you have to understand, young people, Pakistan is signatory to the United Nations Global SDGs, Sustainable Development Goal, and one of those 17 goals we are signatory to is universalization of primary education, which means that every child, boy or a girl, has right or should have access to literacy, which is school. Now, the government of Pakistan, of course, under the Ministry of Education, education is a provincial subject. After the 18th Amendment, the most important man is the Provincial Minister for Education and the Cabinet. They're all working to sensitize. A lot of work needs to be done. The biggest job that this government needs to do is to improve the social and the human development sector. The Pakistan Human Development Index, getting young people to school, they're working on it, they have a plan, they are sensitizing. Like in the past, we have fought the menace of polio, alhamdulillah.
In Pakistan, the people and the economics, as was brought out by Harris, have not gelled together. There are no opportunities here. I do not want to spread despair and despondency, but actually, economically, we are not performing. Let it be at that. So when we are not performing economically, there are going to be no jobs, and that is why people have to go abroad. But having said that, there were times, the times when I was in college and university, 30% of our classmates were foreigners. They were from Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, African countries, Arab countries. Pakistan was providing education to the world. What happened?
So where did we go wrong? Right.
Corruption, elites, that is what went wrong. And as Faisal said, in our own spheres, we must take care of our people. I am a businessman. All my employees, their children get free education, they get free books, they get free uniforms. And I'm not a big businessman. I'm not a big businessman, and I do not spend much. If I can, spending 2 lakh rupees a month for this purpose out of the 5 or 6 that I earn every month is good enough. We have to awaken to it that education and human resource development is not the sole domain of the government. It is also of the people. We must, we must share abundance. Abundance is something we must share with the people around us, as was said earlier.
You see, I'm all for public-private partnership, and we are, the challenges are such that, unless people in the state join hands, people who are privileged join hands with the state to provide resources for children who are out of school, that is one thing. I can give you an example. It is about the priority of the state. I can give you an example of the epitome of capitalism, laissez-faire economy, as it were, or almost, is the United States, where if you do not have enough money, you cannot be treated for your sickness, but your child will go to a state school. The epitome of capitalism in the world, United States, makes it a point that every child born in the US or living in the US is sent to a government-run public school.
Right.
So I think that is about the priority, that we need to set our priorities right.
I think also improving the quality of education in these
no, absolutely,
schools.
absolutely. I mean, 20 years ago, it was only government schools. Most of us are produced either through convents or trust schools or government schools, and they were, or community schools, and they were, and missionary, yeah, and they were all performing.
If you study the policies of studies, you see that you are graduate in law, you are graduate in business, you are graduate in science. Where do you work? You are having university degrees. You expect that you should be on managerial position. You should be in court at highest position. But the problem is, in 1969, there was a survey that Pakistan and South Korea was having the same per capita income per annum. And that was the time where we got the new 5th year plan. And they borrowed our second 5-year plan and first 5-year plan, and they implemented that. The difference was that we are not creating vocational institutes and we are not creating skilled power.
The panel said that the dictatorship is the result of a political weakness. Can you specify that weakness?
I think Brigadier Sahab has pointed out all the weaknesses, that there were failure in the system and economy was not working well, there was not political stability, governments were changing again and again, and there was, economy was not giving best performance. But I think that these indicators are always there and they remain there under the military rules despite some of the improvement that was again due to the foreign aid. And though no infrastructure could not be developed for that purpose to continue a sustainable development. So these indicators are always there and they come again and again. You know, the trade cycle after 20 years economy is again on the same position where it started. But having all said that, I added the point that ills of democracy should be treated with the more democracy. You know, if you go back into 20th century, the start of 20th century, Americans were having all these ills of democracy, horse trading, nepotism, elitism, etc., and corruption within the political parties. What they did, they transferred the right of nomination and giving nomination to the public representative to the people. They introduced primaries. Yeah. And still American political parties nominate their candidates through primaries. No leader is giving tickets, having money against that. And when you are giving tickets for having a big sum of money, certainly you will earn that money out of corruption, sitting in office.
Still, money plays a big role in American politics.
Exactly. So, still that is. And by the way, politics is always elite politics, because middle class is not having time to spare time for politics at the cost of their businesses, their jobs, etc. So what my point was, that all these problems are there and societies are in continuous process of addressing that. And problems are not solved at once. They are in continuous process to be addressed by the people of that society where these problems are coming. But democracy should continue, because it needs, it includes people, it reflects their demands, and it puts some responsibility on them. By the way, democracy is the most demanding system, because that demands from the people who are giving their votes. And so, if you are choosing the right party, you are having the best government. And even after that, your task is not over. You have to continue, keep watching on the government.
Very quickly, I think this debate should actually stop in Pakistan. I think we have a constitution, and that constitution is a democratic constitution, and that guarantees fundamental rights of the citizens of Pakistan and clarifies the roles different institutions have to play. And I think unless there is an elected parliament, which is a constituent assembly, which changes the constitution, we have to follow that constitution. And everything has to actually be derived from the rules set in the constitution. I don't think that debate actually takes us any further, because I do not agree with a lot of numbers that are thrown up from the times of General Ayub Khan or General Musharraf or General Zia. I do not agree, because I've got a different set of information on, on my side, because those where areas where it is, and Dr. Saiba has very rightly pointed out that there were international wars of which we were a part of. There was infinite international aid, not infinite, but largely aid that our state was getting. So the thing is that we need to actually believe in our constitution, and the constitution is a democratic constitution. Right.
As you know that we are the owner of the most productive agriculture region. And what is the main cause of our failure on capitalizing on this asset to its maximum potential so far?
Part of a group which is trying to bring revolution in agriculture in Pakistan, and we're up against a wall at every step. The biggest problem is our political elites, who are also feudal landlords. And they have certain practices in agriculture which bring them enough money and enough serfs and servants, so they're not bothered if their output goes beyond that. Secondly, they're also recipients of donations from international organizations like USAID and UNDP and other NGOs, and they funnel that through the agriculture into their businesses. The cropping pattern is the major issue in Pakistan right now, and I'll talk of sugarcane. Wherever sugarcane grows, it's a water-intensive crop. It destroys the soil all around it, and because of sugarcane, our cotton and wheat have suffered very badly. So, just like other institutions and other things in the country which have been destroyed by elites, agriculture is no different. Right now, our agricultural productivity is not very good except in sugar, which is actually a political crop, and we have surpluses. Other than that, we are going down in cotton, which was once upon a time our major export strength and a source of GNP. We are going down in wheat. Rather, this time the government and the departments paid no heed to the wheat. Our cotton is going down because we wanted, some of the elites wanted to introduce GMO cottons into Pakistan, genetically modified seeds which terminate and they are resistant to certain pests at the cost of Pakistani seeds, which were much more productive, probably 6 to 7 times more productive. Pakistani seeds are now out because in the 6 to 7 years, no one has grown Pakistani seeds, and now there is an assault on Pakistan's agriculture through Monsanto and Bayer to introduce GMO crops, pesticides, fertilizers, insecticides into the agriculture. Now, why is all this happening is that the companies which control all this were producing ammunition in Second World War.
Just to add on, at the very conclusion, we are the roots, and we are growing the seeds of hope, and that is through the spirit of Pakistan. I would like to say.
Well said, and we'll conclude our today's special program on this line. What Mr. Mushtaq just said, we all have this responsibility to work for Pakistan, for a better Pakistan. We can work for ourselves, for making our environment a better place, Pakistan a better place to live. We have to fight the challenges that are there and also work on the potentials and opportunities that are provided to us. Thank you for watching today's show. See you next time. Khuda Hafiz.